Running our own business isn't easy, and it can be a tough gig for all of us at times, and only other business owners truly understand the challenges that we face. And on ScaleUp Radio, we aim to help make things just that little bit easier by interviewing guests who have been where you are now, regardless of where you are on the scale-up journey, and maybe facing some of the challenges that you are facing. And they offer their thoughts and advice on what has worked well for them, as well as what didn't, of course. And we've also combined many of these lessons into a practical scale-up handbook called the Entrepreneurial Scale-Up System. And there's details of this at the end of the episode. So welcome to ScaleUp Radio. Welcome to another episode of ScaleUp Radio. Today I'm joined by Lauren McWilliams of Lauren McWilliams Brand Photography, and you're a brand strategist as well. So Lauren, welcome to ScaleUp Radio.
Hello, and thank you very much for having me. I'm really excited to have a chat.
Yeah, excellent. Me likewise. And I guess I've given the game away, but what does Lauren McWilliams do? What kind of business do you do?
The clue is in the name. I know. So I'm a brand photographer and I'm a strategist. So basically what that means is that I work with entrepreneurs to help them to think about ways that they can be visible. So in terms of photography being the main part, and I would go out and help them to capture a bank of images that represents who they are, what they do, how they do it, why they do it, and potentially what they want to do in their future as well. So I might explore that a little bit more later on.
Okay.
But yeah, really getting into the bones of why you're having a photo shoot rather than just asking for a photographer to turn up and take some photos and not really know how to use those images. Okay,
well, we'll get into that in a minute. So how long have you been running the business?
So I started in 2019, so interesting time just before the pandemic, to have this idea, and I thought, right, this is it. I'm going to do it. I love taking photos. Not really sure about business, but I'm sure I'll work it out along the way. And then 2021 came, and all business dried up.
Yeah, so we were talking a little bit off air, weren't we, beforehand? And so we'll come to that definitely in a minute, and some of your experiences and your learnings around that. So fast forward to today, then can you give us a feel for the business now?
Yeah, so currently, just this week, I have launched my new program, which is all about visibility. So the name of the program is the Visibility Rebellion, and it's all about doing things a little bit differently to get yourself out there and feeling confident with that as well as the leader in your industry.
Great. And starting from scratch in 2019, can you give us a feel for the size of the business, whether that's in terms of types and size of clients or some idea?
So 2019, when I first began, it was kind of those things that most businesses do. We said yes to everything. So I did some weddings, I did baby shoots, I did business photography, didn't really know what that meant at the time. So some corporate, some more just like smaller independent businesses. So there was a real range of everything. Thinking back to it, actually, it was probably the best thing that I could have done because it gave me a taster of the whole industry to kind of know what I like and what I don't like with business.
Okay, so now how does the business look?
So now it's very much focused on working with service-based entrepreneurs, coaches, those kind of people, and it's all about understanding their brand. Where do they currently fit? What's their intentions for the future? What are their goals? And then how can we communicate that into the images that you're using, the stories that you tell with those photos, and using the photos in a consistent way across all of your marketing. So things like your website, your social media posts, PR opportunities, those kind of things.
Okay. And how do you differentiate yourself from other photographers that might be out there? What makes you special?
I used to really struggle with this question, but I think now I feel a lot more confident about it. Okay. And it's the case of understanding that I don't just turn up with a camera. I really get to know the business, what is going on, and helping them to think about the strategy behind it. And from that, it's helped to develop like the program, other education tools and workshops that I've run for local authority as well as charities, and now my own program.
Okay, so if I'm a service-based entrepreneur, which I guess I am, then what do I need to be thinking about from a photography aspect?
I think it's about standing out as you being an individual. So, we often look at our competitors and we look at, what kind of things are they doing? And maybe I hear it all the time, like, I want to look like them because they seem to know what they're doing. Whereas actually we should be going the opposite way and thinking about what makes us special, what makes us an individual, think about our quirks and our personality, and then putting that into the brand, but also into the photos, because I think they stand out so much more than just your generic plain headshots. That we use, you might use the same one for years. I've had clients where they've had the same headshot for 10 years. And they're like, I think I need an update. I'm like, you look totally different to that photo you had on LinkedIn. I didn't even know it was you.
Yeah. All right, good. Okay. And where's your industry going? I mean, we're hearing all the time about ChatGPT and other forms of artificial intelligence. Is that going to impact you, do you think, in your business?
Yeah, 100%. I've seen it using LinkedIn. I've seen it happening where people are using AI, for example, to develop and generate photos of themselves, which might be classed as superheroes, or it looks quite cool from an outside. But again, I think it doesn't look authentic because straight away we understand that it's not that real person. But people are using it as their solution to the problem of not having photos or hating to have a photo. So they might feel uncomfortable with that. So they think that that's the solution. And I don't think that we shouldn't be using it. I think it's about learning and understanding it more of how we can incorporate it into our business and our marketing, but not rely on it completely 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are some of the big challenges that you see coming up for you and in your industry then?
I don't think it's become a challenge as such. There's still, especially now, people are realizing that it's all about being authentic. And whether you love or hate that word, especially in the marketing world, it still applies, and it's still about being personable, being somebody that you can build a genuine relationship up with your audience. And with the AI aspect, I suppose it's one of those scary things that people just don't really understand yet. So they're playing around with it as a solution, but then you've got the other side of people not liking it at all and thinking it's going to take away work. I think it's one of those things like when, back when computers came out, people would have been scared about a computer, and now look, we're doing a Zoom call from hundreds of miles away from each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, good. So what got you started then in 2019? What made you decide to get into photography?
I'd always loved photography. It was always a hobby, a passion hobby. It was mostly, I'd have a little handheld camera around my wrist and I would take it everywhere, from holidays with my family to just day trips or events, that kind of thing. And then I got my first DSLR in 2017, I think it was. So I was just left university. I just graduated from criminology, so totally different background.
Yes, I saw that in your background, and you did a master's in it as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. 4 years at Northumbria Uni doing criminology and working in the criminal justice system once I graduated as well. And that was kind of the way that it pushed me into thinking about photography as a new business. So I'd worked in the criminal justice system, but unfortunately in the last year that I did it, I was working in a hostel, supporting homeless people who are homeless, and I totally burnt out from it. It's a really strong environment, a really complicated environment to work in day out.
Yeah.
So I got to the end of the year and I just thought, I need to do something new. I need to do something different for my own mental health. So I'd gone in there with all of the intentions about helping other people to support them, and actually it ended up having a really negative effect on me.
Right. Yeah, tough. So then fast forward a little bit, how did you get from there then into setting up your own business?
It was one of those things where I'd set up a Facebook page, and hoped maybe somebody will see it. Maybe somebody will come across it and think, oh, she's got some nice photos, I'll book her. But obviously we know that doesn't really work. You need to have really a marketing plan and understand networks and getting yourself out there and all of those things that I'm currently now promoting.
Yeah.
But at the time, I had no idea about it. So I found there's an organisation that was run through our local council called the Business Factory, and they support you to get started. So they would look at all the foundations of how to set up with HMRC, how to do your first tax return, how to find networking groups, all of those things that you really need at the beginning to get yourself started.
Great, good. So you launched 2019, and then get hit straight away by the pandemic. So take us through that.
Yeah, so that was a whirlwind of emotions. I think that's fair to say. So I was actually working part-time. I'd quit my job, my full-time job in the hostel, and I started just getting some part-time work in bar, pub. And obviously we know how much the hospitality sector was impacted. And so the start of the conversation of COVID happening and, you know, the potential of maybe lockdowns and all these kind of rumours were coming about, and working in a really busy pub where there was lots of people coming in and out. I didn't really understand, as most of us did at the time. We were quite worried about it. So I decided to quit. My business had just taken off and I was getting quite a few inquiries coming through. There was a lot of events for networking or business expos were all happening in the summer. So it was a really exciting time. And I quit the job. 2 weeks later, everybody got put on furlough and I was stuck. My business wasn't early enough for the support from the government. It wasn't like it hadn't been established enough for the support from the government. And all of my inquiries that I'd just got and booked in had disappeared because they had to cancel because they were in the same situation.
Yeah.
So kind of sat there thinking, well, I've totally messed up this. I've got no employment. I've got my business, but nobody can pay because they're in the same situation. What do I do? And so I decided that on the Sunday, I was going to come up with a way of how can businesses be visible at home while we're all stuck behind our computers. And so I created a 5-day challenge at the time. Developed it on the Sunday, put it out on the Monday, as my brain tends to do. I get really excited about an idea, but there was no call to action. There was no real strategy behind it. It was just that I wanted to do something to keep myself busy, but also keep connected with the business community that I'd worked really hard to connect to in the first place. I didn't charge for it, so I had no money coming from it, but I just hoped that it would do the right thing of whenever COVID or the lockdowns in particular ended, because whether that was going to be a month or 2 months, and actually it ended up being a lot longer. But at the time we had no idea that at the end of that, people would then know my name and hope that I could help them, and that paid off. So the first 2 months after coming out of the first lockdown, I was fully booked, and then started to get traction from the business of people knowing my name. They'd built up that relationship, and it kind of went from strength to strength from there.
Very good. And I think we met through the Great British Entrepreneur Awards, didn't we? So tell us about that. What was behind your nomination there?
I'd never been involved in anything like it before. I've always kind of been that sort of person where I'm not really sure about awards. And I kept seeing it. I knew a couple of my clients who had previously been nominated the year before, and they told me to go for it. So I remember sitting, and it got to, you get the deadline's approaching, you know, you must fill in your application. And I'd started it and then I put it off, and this deadline was getting closer and closer. And so I remember it was like a Sunday evening. It's always a Sunday with me. It's usually when my brain's ticking over, and I thought, do you know what, I'm just going to fill it out. And I did it. I typed away on my phone, filled all the answers out as best I could, just thinking about different things that had happened to me over the past few years in terms of where the business was to where it was at the time. And I never expected anything from it. And then I got the email saying, congratulations, you've been selected for the top 4 in the Northeast for your category, which was Young Entrepreneur of the Year.
Great.
And I have never been so proud of myself in all my life.
Yeah,
really, really just an amazing experience of being recognised, I think, for what I thought probably wasn't going to work, actually turned around and became something that was showing me that there was potential for it to do something else. Yeah.
Great. No, well done. And how's that helped since? What's happened with the business since then?
I think it's given me that boost and that little bit of energy and motivation to know that I am doing something really unique, and I hopefully can use my story to inspire other people who get to that point where you feel like, I'm not sure if this is working, and you just need a redirection into something new, a fresh start or a fresh service, whatever it is that needs to relight what you're currently doing within your business, and show you that if you're passionate about something, you can work it out. And I think that's been my kind of mission through the whole thing,
right,
is to continue that story and keep sharing, the highs and the lows of business, because let's face it, it's not easy all the time. But yeah, bringing that into it and just being genuine in what I share in my social media has helped me to then think about investing in myself. So I've done a lot of coaching and learning opportunities where I can just basically soak up as much information as possible within my brain to know about my industry. How can I better my services? How can I improve myself as well? And that's given me a really, really good start, I think, to what I believe is going to be an amazing business that I'm just going to grow from strength to strength.
Great. So, and you've recently launched your Visibility Rebellion program. So tell us about that. What's that about?
The Visibility Rebellion is a 4-month program, so it'll be online. And the idea is it's taking you through what I've experienced, especially over the last 12 months of understanding, how I feel as a leader within my industry, and being able to be the person that people choose in your niche. Mm-hmm. So I think if you just post a picture once in a while on LinkedIn or Instagram or wherever it is and hope that the business will come forward, it doesn't usually happen that way. It's about, doing the work on yourself, finding ways to connect with your community. So from your network to finding people who are in your industry, even to learn from each other, and feeling really confident about what you're offering. And then once you've done that work, creating the content. So the middle part is all about finding different ways that you can create unique content that's going to convert your audience. So photography being one of them. It could be videos, reels and TikToks, which are obviously on the increase at the moment. Mm-hmm. And then understanding how to get really clear on your messaging as well, so that you can speak to your audience again with confidence, but being able to speak to your ideal client directly and knowing that they're listening to those keywords that you're putting out there. And then finally living it. So not just doing all of the business things, but stepping out and feeling amazing when you do it, with like a spring in your step. So one of the little things that I shared with my audience of doing all of this process, I suppose, a journey that I've been through over the last nearly 5 years, is my next level boots, which I'm currently wearing.
The next level boots, right? Okay.
Yeah. And they're maybe not everybody's cup of tea, but they're big shiny boots that I wear. Yeah. And when I put them on, it means that when I walk into a room, I walk in with confidence and I walk tall, and I know that I'm good at what I do and I've got something to offer, and I can, feel it, as well as just trying to constantly tell myself. So a lot of us go through imposter syndrome and all of the challenges of being an entrepreneur, but it's about embracing that your worth, I suppose, or that you're working with your ideal clients, so you feel good about that. You feel better about the work that you're producing, especially as a creative. We are so bad at being our own worst critic. Yeah. So it's about embracing that and actually feeling confident, so that when you get your ideal client in front of you, you're more likely to just have a genuine conversation and take away all of that fear from selling.
Great. And how do you go about thinking about what your ideal client looks like?
I think it's about, again, I look at my network, I look at my community that I've built. It's people who I see have got so much potential and want to make a change in the world. So I often try to connect with people who are just doing something a little bit different. They're not following the norms and the traditions. One of my favorite clients, they're a recruitment business or agency. Traditionally, recruitment's quite corporate-y looking.
Right.
When we do their photo shoots, it is far from corporate. There's so much colour and dancing and fun and so many different elements to it that you wouldn't really think about it being a traditional corporate agency. And their mission is just so special about thinking about the people rather than just placing numbers on seats. And I think it's those kind of clients who are doing something different and making a change and shouting out about their unique mission to put it out into the world. And I just love that, because then that reflects into the photography, their messaging, their marketing, and all the things they're doing. It's not just following the crowd, it's about being different.
Yeah, one of my usual questions is, what do you love most about what you do? So I think you just answered that one, essentially.
I can't help it. I get really excited and passionate about what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I can tell. No, that's great. So how do you go about finding those clients? Because that's something I ask everybody really, is what works for you in terms of finding your clients, your lead generation? What's best?
LinkedIn is my favorite. I used to hate it and I was scared of it because I thought it was, a terrifying corporate-y kind of place to be, especially in social media. But actually, after working on meeting and connecting with people that relate to what you're delivering or what you're saying, but then trying to find your ideal clients on there. So talk about what you find is important to you and your values and mission. And I think that starts to then reach out into reaching those people who want to connect with you and have a similar thought process. Instagram is my favorite in terms of being creative and creating the content and reels and that sort of thing, and photography especially. But in terms of lead generation, it definitely comes mostly from LinkedIn. I think about finding it, networking as well is another big one for me. It's all about the people and having genuine conversations with them. I think some people think it's going to be a quick fix if you have a conversation and you expect a sale, but actually it's over a long-term relationship. Mm-hmm. So I have clients who I've known for a long time before they actually converted into being a client. And they've referred me to other people in the meantime, but they just weren't ready. And I think it's being patient is a big part of it. Trust in the process.
Yes, yeah, that's always a difficult balance, isn't it? It's being prepared to be patient when actually we've got bills we need to pay.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that you think you've got right over the 3 years or so that you've been running the business? What are some of the things you'd say, that was good, we got that right?
I think 100% is the resilience. I've learned a lot about myself, and resilience is the number one word. I think that I would connect with that.
Yeah.
Trial and error. Not everything is going to work first time. So you've got to test it and try and connect with people, finding out what they want, rather than just assuming that they know what you do and what you think they want. So it's all about communication as well. And I think that's something I'm very good at. As you might be able to tell, I love to talk.
Brilliant. Okay. And what about strategically? Because you clearly have repositioned the business. You said you started off doing all sorts of different types of photography. What take us through how you decided to focus and why?
Again, trying out quite a few things. I found what I liked and what I didn't like. The wedding industry to me was awful. I felt like there was far too many people, and not only for businesses. So, for example, I went to a wedding fair. I only did one, and I set my table up, and it looked all pretty, and I'd put a lot of time and effort in. And there was 10 other photographers in the room.
Wow.
Now, that wasn't just overwhelming for me as a photographer, thinking about competing against all of those people and price and all the other elements, but I felt like it just made the customer feel really overwhelmed by that process as well of how do you choose? And so for me, it's all about relationship and getting to know the person. And I just felt like that was taken away. You didn't have the time to really have a moment where you could speak about your personality, because they were just looking at price at that point.
Yeah.
Whereas when I worked with a business, I felt like it was a lot more relaxed, and I could go in and I really liked what they'd done in terms of their branding, get to know their story of where they come from, what did they intend to do next, what was their big goals, and how could I fit into that process of capturing the photos that they could be proud of to be able to put them out onto the social media, and thinking about the stories they could use. And then when I started to see that people were getting big results from it, so PR opportunities, they were getting more engagement on their posts because they had genuine images rather than just stock images. It was all of those things, and I thought, this is making me happy. This is really lighting me up. Whereas I just wasn't getting that from other types of photography.
Yeah.
Felt like I connected with it in a really amazing way. And I thought, I need to build up. This is the bit where I'm just going to concentrate, take out all of those other things, stop complicating what I'm offering, which made it really easy for me to then start talking to my ideal customer. I didn't quite know who they were at the time in terms of businesses, but I knew I was in the right space. And networking as well, it kind of helped with me going to networks where I was meeting other businesses and telling them what I did.
Yeah. So that clarity of message then really started to come through. And how did you decide on service businesses, service entrepreneurs, rather than maybe manufacturing type businesses or other types of businesses?
So I have worked with big corporates, and again, I liked it, but I think it was more about the story was missing. So if I went in to do, say, corporate team headshots, and you get loads of people, one after the other, say you're doing 40, 50 people in a day, one after the other, they're coming through, and you take their photo, you've got a few seconds or a minute or two to work with that person, build up a relationship. They do not want their photo taken most of the time. So it's more of a fight to try and make them feel comfortable in a situation where they didn't really want it. They've not chosen to be there. Whereas when I work with a smaller business or an entrepreneur, they're on their own, they've chosen to work with me in that process, and they know that they're doing this to add value to their business. They're more likely to build that relationship up, which happens over a longer period of time, because we've got usually the strategy call, then we've got the photo shoot, and then the editing. So on average, it's about a month that we would work together. And I think in that time there's a lot more time to actually build a genuine relationship up. And I know that they want me there, rather than going into a business where they've been told by their employer that they have to have a photo because it's part of the policy or part of the company's morale sort of thing. So yeah, totally different energy from walking into a room where someone's like, yes, I'm really excited for this. Or even if I'm a little bit nervous, I'm just going to trust you, compared to someone's like, oh, I don't want you to be here. I don't want to do this. I hate this. I hate when you get, I've literally had that where someone's like, why have you brought a photographer in? I'm not even known as my name. I'm just a person that comes in and makes their day horrible.
Because not everybody likes having a photograph taken. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Especially on a Monday morning, probably. Okay. So what sort of things would you do differently? What have you learnt over the 3 years that maybe has surprised you, or that you think you might do differently?
I would have invested in myself sooner if I'd known. That was obviously when we think about investing in ourselves, that could be time or it could be money or a little bit of both. And it was always a fear factor for me. So I had an opportunity to get involved with a program and a mentor. And I turned it down the first time because I was terrified of investing. Right. I thought it was far too much money. What if it doesn't work? What if this just all goes to pot? Yeah. And going through that process, I then eventually decided to do it. And I thought, you know what, if I'd have done this 6 to 12 months sooner, where could I be now? And so it's taken me a little bit longer to get to where I wanted to be because I didn't invest sooner.
Right. Very good. Excellent. So how do you manage the cash side of the business, I'm guessing you must have had to invest a little bit up front with some kit. How do you manage the money in the business?
I totally bootstrapped my business. Yeah. So from the beginning, I already had a camera. It wasn't the best in terms of being a professional camera. I mean, it was good. It did the job. But in terms of the quality that I wanted, it just wasn't there. And so every time I got money coming into the business, I would spend it and invest it back into the business in terms of new equipment. And that happened like all the way through to the point where now I'm happy with what I've got. I'm sure there'll be other updates that happen as a photographer, and anybody else who's listening, they'll always want new equipment. There's always something out there. Yeah. But now I'm at a point where that's not a bigger deal anymore. But at the beginning, definitely was a little bit tricky to get someone to choose to invest in you when you don't necessarily have everything ready. So I had a camera, and I was kind of just winging it at that time. But now it's totally different, being able to every little penny that I made went back into being able to do what I can do now.
What does the next 5 years look like, if you like? What would good look like in 5 years' time for you in the business?
I'm smiling because I just love that question. For me, it's about creating a business that works for me, not the other way around. So I see and hear so many people, they quit their daytime job, their 9 to 5, because they're overwhelmed, they're stressed, they're doing something for somebody else. And for me, I thought, well, you're working for yourself so that you can avoid those things, but actually we end up putting more hours into our business than we did in a 9 to 5. Yeah. And that comes with passion and things like that. But I think it's about creating a strategy for me over the next 5 years where I only have a select number of clients that I work with each month. And the reason for that is because I want time for me, and I want time for my family, and I want time for my future. So potentially if I did decide to start my own family, or, going on traveling and doing whatever you wanted, experiences in life and enjoying it to the best of your ability. And I think having a business that allows you to do that and allows you to have that freedom.
Yeah. So creating the business, in the way that you want it to support the things that you want to do, rather than just be driven by the business for the business sake kind of thing. Yeah,
exactly. Constantly being in the business and not having the time to work on it, or not having the time to see your family. Because I see so many people, they work 7 days a week. They do weddings at the weekend, then they're editing through the week, they're doing all the other things. It's like, when do you actually take a break and have time for yourself, but also for your family and friends?
Brilliant. Good. So you've launched the new program. So what are some of your key goals for the next 12 months? What does that look like?
I think this is obviously the first one, so I'm going to be learning a lot of lessons from it. So taking those lessons and growing it is what I want to do. I'm currently part of the NatWest Accelerator program, which is where I'm at the moment, which has been a really big help. Understanding where the business was a year ago compared to where it is now. Yeah. And I think the next 6 months definitely is all about learning from this first cohort of what works, what doesn't, and what else can I bring in to add more value to my clients.
And what was the reason for going down the route of the program rather than continuing in with the general services that you were doing?
I wanted to create differentiation in my business, so not just having one service. My personality is that I like to do lots of different things all at once. And I think having that variety keeps me interested and motivated. But it's also a case of I wanted to create 2 different parts of the business that in the future, if for whatever reason I can't do my photography, because it is quite a physical job. And, if I've been doing a full day event, sometimes my hands are swollen from holding the camera, because you don't think it's quite heavy, the equipment. Yeah. And, I'm young now, but at what point, maybe in the future, where I don't want to do that, or I don't feel the same about it. So I need to have a different part of my business that I can fall back on. And I think the program allows me to do that. So it's allowing me to have two sections that I'm both really passionate about both sections at the moment. But for whatever reason in the future, photography doesn't work out, or we have, let's not say it, but maybe there's another pandemic or something like that. Scared to say it. Having that security blanket to fall back on, because I don't want to be in that situation ever again.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Okay, brilliant. It's been been fascinating talking with you, Lauren. Really, really enjoyed it. Are you okay for a couple of quick fire questions before we wrap up? So
yeah, of course.
If you could go back to maybe before you started the business, what advice would you give yourself with a bit of hindsight?
Believe in myself. I think that's the biggest one. I think we're all just sometimes guilty of being business owners and not really knowing what we're capable of. And I definitely did not believe that I could be sitting where I'm sat now, looking if I'd have spoke to myself 5 years ago.
Brilliant. Very good. And you obviously are keen. You're talking about the self-development and investing in yourself. Are there any books or podcasts or other resources that you would recommend to people? You've mentioned the NatWest Accelerator program as well. Yeah. Any other? Yeah.
So the NatWest Accelerator program, 100%. Recommend it. It's all over the country, so people can access it. It doesn't cost anything. In terms of books, I am really guilty of, I always have the intention of reading books, but never actually finish a book. But the one that has helped me and guided me a lot over the last 12 months is by Nikki James. She's a personal brand strategist and currently working with her as well. And the reason that I like her book, I have read it, is it's not just here's the recipe as such of how to do things. It's about her unique story and where she came from, what she's doing, what works, and what she learned along the way. Yeah. And I really loved that about hers. So yeah, Nikki James, it's called Just Brand You. Just Brand You. Brilliant. I don't know that. Very good. Excellent. And do you use apps at all? Are there any apps or bits of software that you find particularly useful? Now, this is a better question for me. Right. I love the apps. So for me, I use Trello in terms of organising. Yeah. Dubsado is my CRM system that I use and absolutely love. They don't currently have an app, but they are developing one, I believe. That is my business all wrapped up in one. So everything's on there. And then I'm trying to think what else. Free Agent is what I use for my accounting now. I did have Xero, but I've recently changed over and quite like it. Seems to be quite, user-friendly in terms of me, who doesn't understand anything about bookkeeping. Right. And I'm just having a little look. Obviously, all the social media stuff. But, I think Canva in terms of creating, so having something that you can use to create different graphics and things, it's been a really big part of my business. And scheduling tool is my final one, which is Plan. So it's PLANN. I really like that in terms of how you can visualize, for example, with Instagram, having your grid, so before it goes out, you can put everything and get your thoughts in a process to be able to show what you need to talk about. Very good. Lots of good specific answers there as well. So is there somebody, or who do you look up to that's influenced you perhaps as a leader? Couple of people, both mentors. Nikki James, who I mentioned earlier with the book, she's been a really incredible piece of the puzzle, I suppose, of making this work. And my other mentor, Gillian Devine. So she was specifically on brand photography. So she helped me think about pricing and developing my services and making them unique. And both of them have just played quite different parts in where I'm at. But yeah, both of them they're not just saying how to do it, they're doing it and living it. And that's what I really admire. Yeah, excellent. Very good. And we touched on it before, but maybe let's just go back to what I think you said LinkedIn was your most successful lead generation tactic. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. But anything else you'd add to that? definitely networking. It's all about the relationships and building those with people. So having a community, the NatWest Accelerator, having people in here where you could just come in and you meet somebody and maybe you're facing a business challenge and being able to speak about that. So they've already experienced it because they're maybe further down the line than you are. Or vice versa, you might have someone that comes in and you can support them. So it's a very collaborative and supportive place to be.
Great. And just on LinkedIn, because some of us are better than others at connecting with people, but I think we can all understand how to connect in the first place generally. But some of us then struggle with how we move from that just connecting on LinkedIn to actually having a discussion about our products and services and converting them into a proper lead. Do you have any tips? How do you go about doing that?
Treating it as a social clues in the name again. When I post anything, whether I'm sharing about what I've been getting up to, so say I've been at the NatWest Accelerator, I would talk about that. So today I've been spending the whole day doing X, Y, and Z, and I've been with these people and tag those people in. So it's again trying to do it in a genuine way rather than doing a post and then tagging 50 million people at the bottom of your post.
Yeah.
Having more of a story and a structure to what you're posting on LinkedIn. And then the other way is engaging with their posts as well. So if you've got an ideal client or somebody that you want to connect with and have more of a conversation, start to read their posts and engage with them, not just like it and hope that they'll notice you. Somebody said to me once that it's a little bit like dating in the dark. If you're constantly lurking, then nobody's going to notice you. But if you start to actually have a conversation and say, hello, how are you doing? You never know what could happen.
Lovely. What a great image to leave it on. Fantastic. Thank you, Laura. It's been been a delight talking to you. If people would like to get hold of you, find out more about Laura McWilliams as a brand photography and strategy, how do they go about doing that?
Again, LinkedIn, if you want to connect with me on there. So it's Laura McWilliams, brand photographer and strategist. Or you can go to my shiny new website, which is lauramcwilliams.co.uk.
Brilliant. Laura, thank you very much indeed for being my guest on ScaleUp Radio today.
Thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed that discussion, and if you're building and scaling your own business, you might well be interested in our book, The Entrepreneurial Scale-Up System. And it's exactly what it says on the tin. It's a practical handbook around scaling a business in a structured way. And you can order a copy on all your favorite online retailers, including an audio version, or you can find it and other supporting resources on our website, www.esusgroup.co.uk. That's esusgroup.co.uk, which is esusgroup.co.uk.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.